Specificity removes ambiguity. And when you anchor feedback to a real moment, that person can actually recall what happened. They're not defending themselves against a sweeping accusation or a judgment or a generalization. They're engaging with a very specific instance that they can recall and remember. Hello, and welcome to the Evolved Vets podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bethany Weinheimer. Hello, and welcome to the Evolved Vets podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bethany Weinheimer, and today I want to talk about a conversation that we've all been avoiding, one that we cringe a little bit when we think about, or maybe our heart starts to race, and one that we're just getting really stressed. And that conversation is all centered around feedback. And I know when I say that word, it makes most of us want to crawl out of our skin because it can feel icky, it can feel judgy, it can feel really, really unsafe. I want to dive deep into how to give it, how to receive it, how to stop avoiding it, and truly accept feedback as a gift. If you've ever typed out a message to a coworker, maybe deleted it, retyped it, deleted it again, and ultimately ended up not saying anything, this episode might just be for you. Have you ever felt punched in the gut by feedback, or maybe stressed beyond belief where you can't sleep at night when having to prepare for a feedback conversation? I've been there too, all as a young leader trying to understand how to have deeper conversations, how to speak up for myself, and how to help my team grow alongside. You're not crazy if these things have happened to you. So instead of quietly smiling through and pretending like everything's okay, I want to teach you how to use your voice in a thoughtful way, because feedback is truly one of the most important leadership gifts we never really learned. And in vet med, where emotions run high and everyone is exhausted from the emotional toll that it takes to be at work, it can feel impossible to get right. And there's also a lot of high pressure because we want people to like us, we want to be a hero at work, and we want to be loved by our teams. But there's also the chaos of the hospitals that we work in, and so feedback can feel really hard. And here's the truth. Most of us have feedback trauma from one point or another in life. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of vague or unhelpful or straight up cruel feedback, not even passive aggressive feedback, just aggressive feedback. The kind that maybe sounds something like, you need to be more of a team player. Not really helpful feedback, but direct. Or maybe something along the lines of, your attitude has been a huge problem lately. Vague. Again, not helpful and just stressful. It's more of a judgment than a guidance conversation. Some people have mentioned concerns. Again, not specific. It doesn't really give you anything to specifically change or do better. Everyone is mad at you. The invisible army. Or just something that isn't repairable. Like, I just can't trust you anymore. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? So, what does feedback even mean? Who said it? When did they say it? What specifically did you do to receive that feedback? And really, those types of feedback aren't true feedback because it doesn't help anyone, and it ultimately can just make you spiral. I know I've been on the other side of receiving feedback that sounded just like that. And the truth is, it didn't make a lot of progress because one, it wasn't easy to understand. And I'm sure everyone's been hurt by bad feedback before. And so there's parts of us that want to avoid giving it. We might think, oh, if I don't say anything, I'll keep the peace. Or maybe I just pick my battles here. But really, we're just scared. We're scared of conflict, scared of being seen as the bad guy, or scared of damaging a relationship. So instead, we zip it, we say nothing, we throw away the key, and the behavior continues. And unfortunately, that builds resentment, and eventually it explodes or we quit. Sound familiar? Here's what I want you to know. Feedback doesn't have to feel like an attack. There's a way to do it that's clear, kind, specific, and actually helpful. In the Evolved Vets membership, I actually take you through ways that help your nervous system understand that it is safe to give and receive feedback. We reflect back to the inner child phase where you understand the limiting belief around feedback, why it feels so scary, what your nervous system is telling yourself, and what you're trying to protect yourself from. And then we go through the elevation process where we start to envision what would it look like if I gave this feedback really confidently, really well? And what would it look like if my teammate received it with love and compassion? And what would it look like for this person as I gave feedback to them? And how do I start to understand what my new evolved belief is with this outline? And then we go through the integration phase. The integration phase is where you start to embody what it feels like to give this feedback in a way that feels good, confident, and really restorative to the people on your team. So for me, this journey looks like embodying confidence, embodying the ability to use my voice. And I'll tell you a story. As I started developing this process, there were moments in my young leadership journey where I was just silent. People would say mean things, criticize me, call me names, and I would just sit there silently. And then it got to the point where I felt comfortable to look over and say, why are you scoffing at me? I did a really good job on that project. Or why are you rolling your eyes? That's not very kind, right? And then it got to the place where I was able to say, I need to set a boundary around what you're saying. If you start calling me names again, we are no longer going to be able to have this conversation. We'll have to pick up at another time. And that turned into, hey, only meet with me when you can meet with a place of love and compassion, and we're in a place where we can collaborate. And I think as we deep dive each of these moments and really invest in ourselves, in our own development, in the things that make us great and special and confident, and we start to use this framework, the evolved method, to make ourselves better, we'll just make small progress over time. It's not like you magically get the feedback and then the next day you're a completely different human. The patterns will still arise. They will naturally be part of who we are forever. But over time, you'll get faster at identifying the problem, and you'll feel a little bit more confident next time saying, hey, I am worthy of using my voice, or hey, I am worthy of not being called names in a mean way. Like, I deserve to have this place to step up for myself because I'm deserving and I'm loving and I'm compassionate. And I also deserve to receive feedback too, right? Like, I deserve the gift of understanding how I show up in the world impacts the people around me. And I have the option to say, is there at least 10% of this is true? And if it's a yes, I have the opportunity to move forward and make changes around that, which is such a beautiful thing. So think about it. Every time you speak up for yourself, every time you use the SBI model to celebrate a huge win that your team has, or maybe an opportunity for their growth, or you have the opportunity to use the HERE model to really receive feedback in a thoughtful and productive way, you not only make yourself better, you make your team better, the people around you better, and honestly, the people at home better too. Feedback is momentary. You are still safe. You are still confident and kind, no matter who you are. When we're not allowing negative behavior, when we're standing up for ourselves, when we're receiving feedback and making small changes over time, that actually makes the biggest impact. If you want to go deeper on this, I made a feedback masterclass inside the Evolve Vets membership. We are going to be using this for our summer evolution, which I'm so excited about. It will walk you through the journaling, the meditation, elevation, and integration, our 3-step process, and real world practices on how to use the framework. I'll drop the link in the show notes so you guys can follow along and join our membership. It is such a blessing to understand if you're aligned and regulated throughout the feedback process. I want to talk you through a very specific model that I've outlined in my course that actually works. And it's something that's called the SBI model. And this stands for situation, behavior, and impact. It's simple. That's why it works. S stands for situation. Describe the situation where the behavior happened. Paint the scene. Was it in a hospital? Was it in a break room? Was it during rounds? When and where? I always say paint it as if it was a movie so someone can visualize exactly where and when the feedback happened. It doesn't sound like, hey, you're always late to meetings, but it might sound like in our last meeting Tuesday morning. Why does this matter? Well, specificity removes ambiguity. And when you anchor feedback to a real moment, that person can actually recall what happened. They're not defending themselves against a sweeping accusation or a judgment or a generalization. They're engaging with a very specific instance that they can recall and remember. It's also so important to relay this feedback in a prompt manner, ideally within a few days. Now, B is going to be behavior. So describe the observational behavior. Now, what did the person actually do, or what did they say? Facts only, no interpretations, assumptions, judgment about intention or how they showed up. So an example of what not to do would be saying something like, you were just being so disrespectful. Instead, you could try, you were on your phone during the case discussion. Again, factual, as if you're painting a movie. There's no sense of judgment or accusations behind what you're saying. It's just factual data. And ultimately, this is where most people can mess up, because we see someone on their phone and instantly in our own mind, we tell ourselves the story that they don't care. They're checked out. They're disrespecting us as a leader, but we don't actually know that. We don't know what's happening in their head. Maybe they were looking up a drug dose. Maybe they were verifying something that we were talking about within the case that we were actually studying during the team meeting. Maybe their kid's school called, or maybe they're just exhausted and zoned out for a second. Like, I know that I've done that before in a team meeting too. Now, impact is the I of the SBI model. Describe the impact that the behavior had on you, on the team, on the patient, on your workflow, whoever it might be impacted in this moment. So don't say that was really rude, but instead you might say something like, I wasn't feeling like my input was valued, and I noticed another team member started checking their phone afterward too. The impact is where the person understands why their behaviors matter and how their perception is from the team around them. This isn't about guilt. It's about helping them see the ripple effect of how they show up. My boss has always said that it's intent versus impact. So how they intended to show up might not be the way it impacted the people around them. And so as we paint the picture of the SBI model and we put all of this together, it's important to be able to stay neutral, non-biased, non-judgmental, and speaking to your own experience as we talk through it. Here's a final example. Tuesday morning at the meeting, I noticed you were on your phone during the case discussion. It made me feel like my input wasn't very valued. And I noticed after you were on your phone, I noticed other team members started to check their phones too. And that left me feeling insecure and struggling to move forward with the content because I was feeling distracted. Now, compare that to you're always on your phone and that's disrespectful. Let's think about how that might land. Same concern, completely different energy, completely different approach, a completely different way of how you're showing up as a leader. In one way, it sounds maybe a desperate energy. All of your emotions are centered around them. Like, you're just disrespectful, you're being rude, right? All those accusations land poorly on you as the deliverer of the feedback. But in the SBI model, you come from a place that's grounded, thoughtful, really organized and non-emotional. Your wavelength is a very high vibration, really centered around abundance and change, instead of from an energy of lack and really force energy. The SBI can even be used for positive feedback. And here's my favorite part. You don't just need it for corrective conversations, but it actually makes your positive feedback even more powerful in moments of recognition and celebrating where your team did something right. Think about the last time someone told you hey, you did a really great job. Did it land? Probably not. You probably thought, oh, that was nice. And then you kind of moved on and forgot about the thank you itself. You don't really know what you did well. You can't really repeat it intentionally. Maybe you just think, oh, my manager likes me and that's good. Or, yeah, that teammate's pretty cool. I think they do a good job too. But imagine this. If you apply the SBI model in a very intentional way to positive feedback, you could say something like, hey, during the emergency that came in yesterday afternoon, you immediately took charge of triage, communicated the plan to the whole team clearly, and you stayed calm when the owner was panicking. It really set the tone for everyone on the floor. And the team felt confident, clear, focused, and the patient was the one who got the best possible care. Your leadership made a huge difference yesterday. Now, let's think about it. The SBI model in this positive feedback situation wow, that painted a very clear picture. The situation, the emergency that happened yesterday afternoon. Behavior, you took charge, communicated clearly, stayed calm. The impact, the team felt like they were confident and that the patient got the best care. The impact of how they showed up in those first two letters were so important and really shaped the foundation of how that shift with. So think about it. Which would you rather hear? Hey, good job yesterday, or that? For me, I would pick the more in-depth version because it's going to make my heart sing. I'm all about positive affirmations and amazing feedback. So for me, that would really impact my reward and success at work. There was a Gallup research study that took employees who received regular, specific recognition, and it showed that they're 4 times more likely to be engaged at work. And in veterinary medicine, where burnout rates hover around 50 to 80%, that's not just nice, it's actually a retention strategy to making sure our people are having fun, feeling celebrated, and engaged with the work that they do. So if you want to keep your good people, tell them exactly, very specifically, what they're doing right and the impact that they have on their team. The more we celebrate the things people do well, the more they're going to show up and do them. Let's continue to positively train and encourage the people on our teams and really celebrate their zone of genius in the areas that they have their focus on. Let me speak directly to the woman who feels like she's barely holding it all together. You are still competent. You are still high functioning. Your team probably thinks you're fine. Your family probably just thinks you're a little disconnected. But inside, you're exhausted, irritable, disconnected, and wondering if you chose the wrong path. Code Blue coaching is not about quitting veterinary medicine. You've already invested $250,000 or more in your education, and there's also been time, energy, love, and compassion given to VetMed too. This is about reclaiming yourself inside of VetMed instead of giving up on it. Over 6 months, I partner with you and hold your hand as we identify patterns keeping you in survival mode. We rewire the perfectionism loop that constantly happens, rebuild your self-trust and your self-worth, create boundaries you can actually hold, and you have your accountability from yours truly. Don't forget, we also get a one-on-one personalized recovery protocol just for you that will help you for years beyond our coaching time together. So what you get is accountability, nervous system tools, and a true hand-holding pattern that will help you through with a white glove experience. And if you've been waiting for permission to choose yourself, now is the time. Make that extra moment to prioritize you so that way you can sustain your career in vet med. Now, if this calls to you or you're curious, go to evolvevets.com where you can learn more and book an alignment call with me so that way we can better discuss if this is the right next step for you. I hope to see you in there and that we can stop this Code Blue moment. Now, let's talk about receiving feedback, because receiving feedback is usually harder. Because no matter how well someone delivers it, your brain still hears, hey, you're not good enough. And I've been there too in my young leadership journey. When someone gave me feedback, my first instinct is to explain, justify, defend myself. And honestly, as a recovering perfectionist, and I'm sure many of you who are listening also qualify as that, we did a recent episode on perfectionism. So scroll down and listen to that one if you're interested. But really, the perfectionism inside of our brain actually can reject immediately any of this feedback that we get. And this is a very natural thing that we see in veterinary medicine. And so it's our job to, one, make ourselves feel safe around hearing feedback and make sure that we feel confident and comfortable. This is where my meditation process is really helping, especially for me. Like, I built this feedback process as a ask from some of the people in our Evolved Vets membership podcast. Why? Why is this coming up for people in veterinary medicine, especially our ladies? The short answer is feedback giving and receiving is so hard. The people in the membership are stressed. They are losing sleep at night around these conversations. They are really just wanting to do a great job, and their hearts are so good and pure, and they're so engaged with their teams, and they still struggle with this back and forth of wanting to relay the message, but also not wanting to damage the relationship. And so when people in the membership came to me and said, hey, can you build a feedback course and feedback meditation series? I immediately said yes, because this is one of the most important areas we need to develop safety within our nervous system around how we actually show up and how we actually give and receive feedback. It can be easy to shut down in a moment of feedback. Maybe you smile and nod and you're internally composing a 47-point rebuttal, but that's not actually helpful for you when you can't be safe and feel safe enough to listen, when you jump straight to, I'm not good enough, or my job is at risk, my livelihood is at risk. You can't hear or receive that feedback as a gift. And so I want to teach you a model called the HEAR model that helps you regulate so you can let that feedback land in a helpful way. Now, the HEAR model is HEAR, and we're going to talk through the first one, which is HALT. So pause, take a breath, hold on the thought that you need to respond immediately. You don't. Your first reaction is usually your amygdala talking, not your evolved self. So it's that reptilian brain jumping on. It's the part of your brain that's designed to protect you from the thing that is threatening your livelihood, just like we talked about. If you believe that this is threatening your job, the thing that keeps you safe, keeps a roof over your head, there's going to be a natural reaction. And it's being able to tone that down. Instead of seeing this feedback as a saber-toothed tiger that's going to attack you, pause, halt, breathe, and let your prefrontal cortex come back online. In this phase, you can practice something like grounding if that's helpful for you. Grounding is a principle that really helps take your brain from that amygdala response into a prefrontal cortex response. It can be something as simple as like patting your leg. Sometimes I like squeeze my hand and like kind of squeeze like this. And then if my hands are occupied, like sometimes I'll just wiggle my toes inside my shoes. So find something that really just re-triggers that prefrontal cortex so you can get back to a place where you can actually hear the rest of the conversation. So this H part is so important. This halt, the pause, the reconnection to self, and saying like, hey, I'm safe. I'm safe to receive this feedback today. I'm not threatened. I can grow, change, and learn at any time, and I am so capable. The E in the HEAR model is going to be empathize. Now that your prefrontal cortex is back online, try to see it from their perspective. This person cared enough to say something. Think about how nervous you are when you give someone feedback. It's actually kind of brave to sit someone down and say, hey, these are the areas I need you to change or grow, so that way we can have a more in-depth and closer relationship. Even if the delivery isn't perfect, there's probably valuable information in whatever they're saying. And you have the ability to discern how that lands with you and how it can be successful. So ask yourself, what might be true about this? What are they seeing that I'm not? Is there an area that I'm not self-aware? And maybe my perfectionism is covering this up. Self-awareness is such an important part of feedback. As they're delivering the feedback, think about, is it possible that this could be true? And if that answer is even a possibility, try to pay attention to it in subsequent weeks and months to see if that comes out. Self-awareness is such an important story. I had a doctor that I was coaching at one point, and she's just the best, like so impressive and talented. And for her on this journey, the thing that we learned was she was unaware of when something was happening in the world around her. And she had some feedback from her team that when she was giving orders, maybe they landed a little sharp or a little tight. And as the feedback was delivered, she had no idea. She was like, what do you mean I get sharp? Or you think I'm mad at you? That's not the case at all. I'm actually a little bit stressed because working in a busy hospital can do that to you sometimes. Your nervous system can become a little bit more bullet pointed and fast. And as I was coaching this veterinarian, we decided on a process that worked best for her. And in the beginning, it was picking a safe word that she could tell 1 to 2 people on her shift to just relay the information. Hey, when I get sharp with you on shift, would you mind doing me a favor and saying the word mango? And then these two people on our team started saying the word mango. And this doctor slowly but surely started to notice like, oh, maybe that tone did land a little sharp, or eek, I could have maybe lowered my voice or slowed down a little bit. Or maybe I could have just asked my team, hey, what do you need help with from me before I give you another task? When we think about emotional intelligence, there's 4 major parts: self-awareness, self-management, situational awareness, and relationship management. So as she was more self-aware, we were able to move into the self-management box. She's able to practice the grounding, turn her prefrontal cortex on a little bit more, and really just dive deep into understanding how to manage her own emotions around the stress of being in a busy hospital. Now, as she began to explore different options, she actually got to the point where she felt comfortable wearing a brooch or a cute little pin of the mango. So then eventually the whole team felt comfortable giving and receiving feedback to this vet. And it actually became a team journey because she would go up to them and she used this to actually not only be more aware of how her team was affected, but really use it to help understand and better her relationships with her team. So she would go to her team and say, hey guys, like I've really been working on doing a better job about not being as sharp. Like, how do you think I'm doing? I feel like I'm doing better, but what do you think? And then they're bought into her journey of development too, because we all have things we need to work on. You are not alone in this journey of development. And when you have a team cheering you on or being excited, when they can call mango on you, a very safe, kind word that everybody knows is for the benefit of helping someone develop, it becomes a team sport. People wanted her to succeed. And because of that, it was this whole team bond that brought them together. Now, if you yourself maybe don't feel as confident to have somebody saying words like, hey, I want a mango smoothie, or hey, does anybody have any dried mangoes today for lunch, right? It can be very incognito, but if for you, words are not the thing to catch you real time to improve self-awareness. I've also coached veterinarians on getting like a tongue depressor and leaving the tongue depressor on the doctor's desk. Or maybe, the other thing I've had, those little guys that like hang off the cups, or animals that hang off the cups, like monkeys. I've had them put the monkey on the cup when they maybe have a little bit more of a sharp tone or negative nature come out. H of the HERE model was halt. E was empathize, and really try to understand the other person's perspective. A is going to be for ask. Ask clarifying questions. Now that you've expressed empathy and developed more self-awareness, you actually can ask questions such as, hey, can you give me a specific example? What would it look like if I did that differently? Is there a time when you saw me do this really well and this was a one-off, or is this something that you see consistently? Do you have other examples? Is there someone else on our team that you think does this really well that I could learn from? This shows maturity. It helps you manage that relationship piece that we just talked about, and it helps you understand the feedback instead of just reacting to it or rejecting it. All right, now the R is going to be reflect. You don't have to respond in the moment. Sometimes it's okay to just say, thank you for sharing. I really want to sit with this. And that can be the most mature approach. I use that at home in my work life all the time. But the thing is, you actually have to sit with it. You can't just say it. Now go sit with it, journal about it, talk to a trusted friend, talk to a coach, your therapist. Make sure you're meditating on it and really processing how you feel and doing the self-evaluation to see where this might be true and decide what, if anything, you want to change. Now, while reflecting, it is important to continue to remind yourself that you're safe, that your nervous system is safe, that nothing changes. You're always going to be by your own side, no matter what happens. And the truth is, when you receive feedback, this reflection stage can take some time, and you don't have to implement change right away. It takes a process to understand and really acknowledge on how to do it better. And the truth is, not all feedback's fair or accurate. Some people project. People might misread the situation, or they have their own stuff going on, and that's all okay. I used to have a mentor that told me feedback is a gift, which means you have the choice to receive it or to maybe pay it forward and re-gift it another time. Now, you can see feedback as a gift, meaning maybe it's your favorite gift you love and it totally changes everything. Or maybe it's just a little one-off, a little nice to have, right? Think about different types of Christmas gifts or birthday gifts you've gotten. There's no wrong feedback. There's no wrong gift for Christmas or for your birthday, but some of them make a huge change and a huge difference. And others might be smaller or more simple to change or make an impact. And it just really feedback, what it does, it's a gift that tells you how you're being perceived. Maybe it's how you're perceived by your team, your family, the people around you. And it doesn't make it accurate. It just lets you know, how do people see you? And it doesn't mean that perception is accurate or not accurate. It just means that that's the impact of the way that you're acting, the way that you're speaking, the way that you're engaging. And it tells you something about the values of the people giving the feedback, right? So this gift tells you something about what the feedback giver values. So when we think about authentic values, you have to make decisions in your life based on what is your priority at that time. My authentic values center around adventure, community, luxury, and integrity. And these are really 4 core pillars for me. So maybe somebody else who values like constant connection is going to need more touch bases than maybe I would need. Some of my best friends in the world, we talk, maybe every 3 months, and that's okay because we pick up exactly where we left off. We connect immediately when we're together. I'm just more of an in-person person than maybe like a text every day kind of girl. And that's okay. And the people that are close to me really know and understand that about me. And so if your team is saying like, hey, I need more touch bases with you, I want more one-on-one time, maybe their values are just a little bit different. Maybe they really crave that quality time. And when they give that to you, it is that gift for you to say, okay, hey, this isn't necessarily my style, but this is important and a value of somebody that I love and care about and that is on my team. And I want to provide that to them. And it's a great way to kind of give them that gift back. And sometimes feedback reveals a blind spot that you genuinely don't know about or unaware of. So instead of immediately dismissing the feedback, letting the amygdala completely shut it off and your perfectionism put you in a little box, just get really curious. Ask yourself, is there 10% that this might be true? Is there any world from any perspective in the room that I could have seen that be the case? And one of the best ways to really relay that is say like, is there a world where they might be right? And if yes, say that in the conversation. Hey, there's a world where you might be right. And if not, it's okay to let that feedback go and move on with your story. Maybe you just had a really bad day and it wasn't something that's consistent. But it is important to notice and it is good to have a conversation around. I had a client who got feedback that said they were intimidating. And of course, they got defensive. I'm just confident. I'm direct. It's their problem, not mine. But when we sat with it together and I asked her to meditate on it, journal about it, they realized, okay, maybe sometimes it's possible that I do come in hot. Maybe there's a 10% chance that I come in a little hot when I get stressed. Maybe my words and my tone change. Maybe my direct feels hard on people that maybe use a softer language or are not as used to direct communication. It's not that you became a different person. They didn't shrink, but they started paying attention. They started having the increased self-awareness, just like we talked about in another example. The challenge was, can you pause and tone down your tone or your volume in certain moments? Can you ask more questions before jumping into solutions? Can you really understand and let the other person know, hey, there's a world where that might be true? And you know what? Her relationships with her whole team got better. Her relationships at home got better. The team trusted her more, not because she was a pushover or she was no longer clear or direct, but just because she's willing to say, hey, that's part of me too. Part of giving and receiving feedback is about integrating. And Carl Jung talks about this in all of his work, which is really about the process of integration. And it's a beautiful part of what we learn and do at the Evolve Vets, because it's being able to say like, yeah, sometimes I can be a perfectionist and that makes me incredible at my job. I'm amazing at consulting. I'm amazing at coaching people because I can find solutions quickly and I get the right results. And sometimes my perfectionism can come out and make the environment stressful. I can make myself stressed. It can put pressure on people to perform, right? It can make my world feel really busy at times. And so both of the things on my perfectionism scale can be true. It's about integrating both and noticing in my body what happens when I lean too far into force energy perfectionism, and I start letting go of some of the things that are really special about being great and being a high performer, right? So it's taking high performance and perfectionism and really saying, like, how do I live in the balance? Like, there are times where perfectionism kicks in and it's a really great thing. So for example, when I'm coaching someone that needs more structure, me showing up with deadlines and structure and a very solid framework actually helps the person that I'm coaching. But maybe to somebody who is a little bit more independent, showing up with that much structure can be crippling and micromanaging. So it really just depends about the person that you're coaching and how you can show up for them in the best way possible. As you all know, throughout the last year, a lot of my journey has been focused on learning to use my voice in a stronger and more confident way. And so what that looks like is there's a version of me that doesn't speak up for myself. I'm a people pleaser. In some ways, I can be very focused on the outcome and be very positive. But then sometimes that lack of speaking up for myself leads to a discomfort and people kind of running over me. So as I start to integrate, okay, there are times where, yeah, is this a hill I'm willing to die on? Not today. I'm going to lean more into my quiet voice, like, hey, that's cool. I'm cool with whatever you do. Or really leaning into, maybe there are times where I need to use my voice and need to be a little bit stronger instead of letting people talk over me. In the journey to this developing of my voice and integrating parts where I can speak up for myself, but then also times where I should stay quiet. It's a balance, and it's being able to integrate all of those things. One side of the series is saying, okay, well, is this a hill I want to die on? No, I'm going to let it go, and that's fine. And then there's other times where it is important to use my voice, like maybe contract negotiation. When you know you deserve something, or you deserve higher pay, or you deserve a better benefit, and it's okay to speak up for that. And that's a good thing. So really, it's the integration of being able to flow between different parts of you and accepting all parts of who you are and being able to flow from one to the other based on the scenario and the situation. So really look into this theory if you're interested, or join the Evolved Vets membership, where you actually get to apply these principles through our 3-step system called the Evolved Method. And that's really the gift that feedback can do when we let it. It helps us balance between one version of us and the other. It helps us understand when to use specific skills that we have that might be tough. Like maybe there's times where getting angry can actually help you advocate for the pet. I just mentioned an example of this on my euthanasia episode. So scroll back down if you're interested in hearing about that. If you love this podcast, you find yourself nodding along, thinking, this is exactly how I feel at work, and sometimes even outside of work, then I want to invite you to something even bigger. Come with me to the Evolved Vets membership. It's my online home and community for women in veterinary medicine who are done surviving and ready to start evolving. Inside the membership, you're going to find race-approved masterclasses, vet reset meditations, live monthly coaching with yours truly, and a community of women who actually get it. It's not toxic positivity. It's not just another membership you sign up for. It's learning how to manage your energy, protect your boundaries, and build a sustainable career in veterinary medicine. It's your choice to move from self-abandonment to self-devotion. And the truth is, you don't have to do it alone, my friend. Come evolve with us. And so let's talk about a few other feedback tips that I've just learned over the years. For feedback, I usually recommend giving it as promptly as possible. The longer you wait, the more awkward it is, the more resentment builds, the less likely they are to remember the SBI part of what you're telling them. They're less likely to remember that Tuesday morning early doctor's meeting call that you had. Always give your feedback privately. No one wants to be called out in front of a team, right? It's a very sensitive topic. It can be amygdala triggering. It can be embarrassing. And always start with curiosity. Hey, can I ask you about something that I've noticed? Hey, there's a pattern that I'm seeing. Are you open to diving deep with me and helping me understand? Maybe you're aware of it and maybe you're not. The whole like old school model of, hey, we need to talk, the weird text that you get from your boyfriend in high school, that never goes well. It just triggers a stress response. It's threatening and it feels really tough. It's also better to not surprise someone with the feedback. Just showing up on a phone call and being like, hey, here's the 16 things I'm mad about you for, isn't really an appropriate way to give feedback. Instead, use the SBI model to create a framework in a thoughtful way of really being intentional, having that curiosity, and really preparing for these conversations before. It's not a bad thing to have an understanding and a framework for how you want the conversation to go. Of course, be willing to pivot or adjust as needed, but have very clear wording selected ahead of time. For me, I like to journal out what I'm going to say. It helps my nervous system regulate, and then it also helps me show up for the conversation better. And the other thing I'd say is, like, if you do better with rehearsals or role play, like, reach out to a mentor or coach to help guide you through that. That's very important. What I've found from my time in coaching in veterinary medicine, it is usually two camps of people. One camp is they're afraid to give the feedback. They want to be liked, be perceived to be loved by their team. And so giving the feedback can be hard. On the other side, I've had and coached people that give the feedback way too harshly. It's too vague and too emotional. And so it can land as like, very nitpicky and micromanagey around the topics. Another feedback tip I'd give is don't pile multiple things on all at once. For example, if there's one main theme or one main challenge, I would really focus and lean onto that. And I would focus with the feedback on like what support that person needs to get better. So if it's a self-awareness issue, then how can you partner with that person on your team to make them more self-aware? If it is a self-management issue, like they know that they're landing poorly, but they don't know how to ground themselves, get more focused, or have an emotional regulation practice, like that's okay. They can find help from hiring a coach, an executive coach, a leadership coach, whatever it might be, to really help them work through that process, maybe a therapist too. And then if it's relational management where they don't know how they're landing to other people and they're not aware with that management, or if it's relationship awareness, right, where they don't understand how it's impacting the people around them, then you can start with like a 360 feedback process, better understanding who on the team feels what and is impacted by what from this person, or relationship management. Get curious and partner with this person on your team about, hey, how can I help you in those moments where you get really stressed? Or I hear you raising your voice to a team member, if that's the thing that you're working on. Or if I hear a sharp tone, like, how can I partner with you? Do you want to role play scenarios with me so that way you feel more confident? How can I help you show up better for your team? Because that's ultimately going to help. Feedback is never about making someone feel small or just giving the feedback to give the feedback. It should always be focused on what needs aren't being met and possible solutions on how to make it better. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have this whole conversation all in one setting, right? We talked about in the here model, the R is the reflection part. Give this person space to sit with the information that you gave them. It might be completely new information. It might be things that their nervous system has been avoiding to keep them safe their entire life. And that is normal. And so after they've had time to reflect, reconvene, have a circle back meeting, ask, hey, what do you need from me? My goal, I love and support you. My goal is to help you be so successful here. And what do we need to do to get you there? Like, where in these 4 buckets are you needing additional help? And how can I help hold you accountable to those things and partner with you in brainstorming different ideas? Every person is different. Every person needs a different type of coach. So how can we come together, understand your values and how you want to show up here at work and at home, and actually use those to help move you forward? Sometimes my feedback conversations actually look like this. Hey, I know you're new to our team, and I think you're an amazing player. Like, you are starting on A team, and you're on JV. I want to help get you to varsity. And what does that look like? These are some small themes and patterns that I'm seeing over time that we can make small changes in to really help you level up. Like, you're an all-star, you're an A-team, and I see you being starting line of the championship team, and I want to help get you there. I know the things that you value. I know you as a person, and I know you as an individual, the things that you love, the things that you value, and where you want to get to in life. Like, this matters so much when you're coaching and giving and receiving feedback. Like, if you're giving feedback to somebody who really wants to be a leader one day, you can tell them, like, my goal is to get you to this leadership seat, and we need to partner together and brainstorm ideas on ways that that's going to work really well for you. Or maybe they want to date more, like I was a year ago, right? Like, I wanted to go on more dates and have more time to myself. And my leader did a really great job of making sure that I had the time and space to be able to do that in this new role. And that means so much to me. I've also commonly heard a tip of asking, like, hey, are you open to some feedback? Is this an okay time? And really just helping them understand that it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. I think usually the place we jump to as vets and as vet professionals is this really scary place where we don't feel safe, we don't feel confident, and it feels like our livelihood is on the line. So as a leader or as a team member who's really stepping up into a leadership place, how do you say, hey, your job's not on the line. I'm not trying to threaten you here. Our partnership is safe. Our relationship is safe. The things that I need you to work on are really a team approach to making change. Now, the other thing about feedback is you can't make someone make these changes, right? There have been people that I've coached in the past that as I gave them the feedback, they said, wow, Bethany, you have a lot of feedback for me. And I did, but it's only because the people on their team came to me almost every day with feedback. And so there was a lot of feedback. There was some themes that we needed to work through. But as much as I loved and cared about this person, if they weren't willing to make those changes on their own, I cannot do that for them. Of course, I wanted it for them. And all my conversations and the heartbreak and the change management and everything that came through that process was a journey for me as a young leader too. But at the end of the day, that decision wasn't up to me. I would not be able to change how this person impacted their team by myself. It needed to be a unified team. It needed to be a partnered process on how we would move forward together. I think another important piece, especially in veterinary medicine, as people are considering leaving the profession, as we struggle with burnout and all the other things that are challenging in this field, it is so important to remember we aren't replaceable. We have a very unique set of skills. And how can we work together to find as many solutions as possible to keep these people on our team? Now, the reality is there will be turnover at times, and people fit in different places with different teams, and that's okay. But when you're giving feedback, how do you take the approach of, my goal is to get you here. I want to be clear about what your team is feeling, what I'm feeling, and how we change the impact of what's happening. And it can be a loving partnership headed in the right direction. And you can show up for these conversations with genuine love and curiosity for the other person and knowing the things that they value. One huge tip that I'd like to add here is don't have these conversations without an emotional bank account. And there's a book that talks about this where it essentially says, every time you make an investment or a deposit on someone's emotional bank account, they feel a connection to you. Maybe it's giving them an SBI compliment feedback, or maybe it's bringing them a coffee to work, or maybe it's giving them that weekend off that they really needed, or maybe picking up a shift for this team member, right? It can be really, really small ways. But when you have that relationship, it's so much easier to go into these coaching conversations and really help develop them. I will say, like, sometimes the people I have the closest relationships actually hear my feedback and make changes the fastest because they know I'm looking out for their best interests and that I want them to be successful. And they believe that. So it's not that I don't want it for everyone on my team, but it's, does the other person believe when you give them the feedback that you actually want them to be great and that you see a version of them that is already there, living in the success. And I think that's part of our job as leaders on the floor, right? We get to show up and we get to say, hey, like, I see you leading a hospital. I see you leading a team. I see you being a career badass ER veterinarian. I see you being a shift lead one day. Like, you can hold a vision for someone maybe that doesn't yet have that confidence or doubt. Especially after all these years in leadership, I can sense qualities in people very early. And so being able to catch on to the things that make people special and unique and being able to hold that vision for them and tell them like, hey, you're going here, that means so much. I remember when I opened my very first hospital on my own, and I had a young nurse, veterinary nurse, that was working on our team, and she was just a delight. Maybe a little bit quiet, but she has so much rigor, so much passion. She really wanted to do well for their profession, and she wanted the culture in our hospital to be excellent. And she won, Employee of the Month the very first month. And so myself and my other leadership team members, we took her to lunch. We said, hey, wherever you want to go, let's take an hour. We want to make sure we're a leadership team that gives our time to the people that are doing great. We want to give our time to the people that need a lot of coaching and development, but we don't want to be a leadership team that forgets about the people that are crushing it. And so thank you for crushing it. Let's go to lunch. You have our undivided attention. What do you want? And as we sat down to this lunch, this nurse was very sweet, very genuine. And I remember telling her, I see you like running a hospital one day. I see you being an excellent leader. I see you helping us shape the culture of this hospital. You have integrity that I don't see in a lot of people. And so in order for us to help you get to this place, we need to start developing your voice. How do you speak up in those moments where people are being negative on the floor or maybe gossiping, right? When these moments happen, how do you show up? And so slowly over the years, we started to develop confidence, trust, teaching her how to use her voice. And she started realizing that, wow, the things I say are powerful and I'm actually kind of good at this. And it developed her confidence, her clarity. And now she's actually been selected to not only be a nursing manager, but also to be a nurse manager for a de novo hospital that she'll be opening later this year. And so I'm very proud of her and she means a lot to me. But there's stories like this all over the place where sometimes you just need someone to be a vision holder for you. And that it can be the place of how you should coach and show up to these feedback conversation. It's not to come in and give the feedback, to squash someone's integrity, to squash their spirit, to make them feel bad. That's not the point of feedback. The point of feedback is to say, hey, this is how I felt. This was the impact. Like, these are the things I need from our relationship moving forward. And let's find a way to meet these needs together, because a relationship is all about meeting each other's needs, serving the hospital, and being able to move forward together. So I want you to know that feedback is a skill. And like any skill, it gets easier with practice. You're not magically just going to be better and perfect at feedback. It takes years. I'm still learning and growing in the process of feedback, because it's hard and it's complicated and every individual needs to receive feedback in a different way. And that gets complicated, but it also makes it enjoyable and fun. And learning different ways to break through with each team member is such a special, exhilarating thing that happens. It's the breakthrough. There was an incredible leadership experience that happened to me earlier this year about a moment that I had to give a medical director feedback. I have this medical director that I had been coaching, and I've been asking this person to deliver a product for several months in a row. I think we were about 3 months behind the deadline. And I sent a text at the beginning of the week, hey, make sure when I get to your hospital this week, can we have this project done? And then ultimately showed up to the hospital and the project wasn't done. And I looked at this medical director and I said, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to put you on a performance improvement plan because you didn't execute on the thing. I've given you so many reminders and I've given you 3 opportunities to show grace and give you flexibility because things have been tough at the hospital, but I really needed you to follow through on this time. And this medical director broke out into tears. No, please don't do this to me. I don't deserve this. And my eyes started filling up with tears too. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And at the same time, I need to hold you accountable for the fact that we haven't gotten this project done. And I need to be able to have the same accountability for you as I do for everyone else on the team. I recognize there were 3 different instances where grace was given. And that's really special. I want to be a leader that gives grace when things are tough. And I also need to be a leader that's fair and consistent across every member of my team. And that moment was really hard. We gave the performance improvement plan. They signed right away. And then there was like an immediate change in this person. Started getting things done on time, recognized the importance. And something really special happened a few months ago. This leader came up to me and just said, "Hey, Bethany, I just want you to know that moment defined me as a leader." And in that moment, this medical director knew that my accountability for them meant showing up with accountability for their team. And now I'm happy to say that this leader is a shining star. The hospital is doing incredible. In fact, they've gone on to have an impact in several hospitals, and it has been a beautiful thing to watch. And sometimes when you give feedback, you don't hear about it for years. I think it had been almost 5 years since I heard about this story. And to have my team member come back to me and say, "Bethany, thank you so much for your leadership. And thank you for that feedback conversation. It changed the way I lead my team, and it changed the way I show up as a leader." Those moments are what make coaching and this feedback process completely worth it. If you found this episode helpful, please send it to a colleague who might be undergoing feedback or trying to learn how to communicate feedback better. Remember, every opportunity to learn and grow just makes you a better person on the other side. Come join us in the membership, or come join me privately for Code Blue coaching if you want any extra help and confidence building along your journey. Thanks so much for being here. Together, let's stop revolving and start evolving. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to the Evolve Vets podcast. It truly means the world to me. If this episode supported you or sparked something new in you, please go to evolvevets.com to become a member or join our coaching program and truly continue this work beyond the podcast. Let's evolve together.